Hi guys, welcome back to LIS Pod, Life and Sports podcast with your co-host Bo, and
Two.
today we have somehow managed to bag a professional rugby player who's also does a lot of charity work within sports, Fiona Cooper.
Hello.
Fiona Cooper is not only a rugby player but also well, to be fair, you're always going to be a TED Talksman for a TED spokesman that did 5 years ago, did
5 years, let's just be clear.
in 2018 August, was posted onto YouTube. She did a nice little program, 16 minutes long, for basically equality within sports, where she went through. Do you know? I'll let you take this one. What was it about, or can you not remember?
Starting deep.
Yeah. Okay, it was at uni, so it was like you had to do like a competition. My friend entered me to do it. So the talk was on like the perception of women in sport. So I definitely started it by asking everyone to close their eyes and just like picture like a really successful athlete and like imagine them from like top to toe. And then I asked everybody like how many people in the room pictured a woman, and nobody did. So I think it was just like trying to challenge some of those perceptions. Also talked a bit about like over-sexualization of female athletes, some stuff like that. But yeah, it was fun because it's like you got to do it in 16 minutes, and then also some of my experiences at uni and playing rugby, like, and some of those things. So yeah, around that sort of vibe. But it was a while ago. And it was also the first time I'd done it, so now I watch it back, I'm a bit cringe because I was quite nervous.
Let me flip this on you. Then close your eyes. Well, you don't have to close your eyes, but your ideal athlete.
Yeah.
I'll give you 10 seconds to think it through.
Okay, now.
Yeah.
What am I
So
picturing?
he'll give you 10 seconds. Think of an ideal athlete,
Okay.
regardless of gender.
Regardless
What would your ideal athlete be?
Just because you said you've done that, I want to see your
Okay.
perception of it.
The only people I think about are just like very good rugby players.
That's a
So-
start.
Yeah, Teresa Fitzpatrick is probably my favorite.
Okay.
So, yeah, she is definitely.
Claudia McDonald,
Yeah.
Yeah.
great winger. Abby Dow.
Yeah, she's amazing.
I just call a lot of good wingers. What a surprise!
So yeah, I don't know. I think an athlete.
Ali
it's hard to
Kildun.
picture.
There's also one there.
Yeah.
Fiona
so-
Cooper, great flanker.
Yeah, no. So that's what I'd probably just pick. I just would picture them now.
Fair. Well, in her exact words for that interview, she asked everyone to close their eyes, think of a man, and then think of a man who plays rugby. And then she said the perception of a man didn't change that much. Then she went on to now think of a woman, and now think about if she played rugby. And the perception of a woman had to change a bit more because as rugby's a more masculine sport, and you said it there in the TED talk that it's harder to visualize a woman playing rugby. She has to be more like masculine, has to be like bit more muscular and everything, has to be a bit more built, whilst a random lad just off the street can go and play rugby. Which,
Same.
I mean, at the end of the day, like rugby's a sport for all bodies and builds, and you know, like if there's a girl who's 12 years old who's like very petite, and she then gets the idea that she has to be like this overly masculine woman in her 20s to play rugby, that kind of kills off her like an ambition or a dream to playing rugby in the future, in my opinion. Whilst with a boy, it's like, oh, I want to be big, I want to be muscular, I want to be strong.
I do think things have changed though. I think there's like more in society. It's like more positive to be quite fit now.
100%.
Whereas that for women as well, like, 'cause I don't know, I mean, for men too, I think, but I think when I did the talk, there wasn't really that, like, fit girl.
I mean, I was 5 years. A lot's changed in 5 years.
Yeah, and I really think, like, even some of the perceptions of, like, muscles on women has also changed. Like, now it's, like, a lot more of, like, a positive thing. It's just obviously some of the muscles are, like, there's specific muscles that people will be like, oh, yeah, that's attractive, and then others that won't. And so I think things have already changed, which is really cool. But obviously some things, you know, still haven't. And so I still think it's interesting now because I don't play at like a community level anymore. And so I think the perceptions, or I don't come across people who have like strange perceptions of rugby because everyone who or as many strange perceptions because everyone who I'm playing with or who work at the clubs that I'm playing at recognize the women who play as athletes rather than like a strange group of people who they don't really
Yeah.
understand or don't value. So I do think it's changed, but also my own experiences have changed as I've also progressed.
So, shall we run it back a little bit then and just tell us a bit about you, where you grew up, stuff like that?
Sure.
If you need any help, I got the research paper right here. I can help you out on your own little journey.
God.
Let's take it from the top.
Okay. I grew up in rural Fife in Scotland.
Okay.
That's how you pronounce it, Fife.
Yeah.
I
So,
can
yeah.
pronounce random words in Serbian, but Fife. Nah, I was like Fife. I was like, no.
Yeah, which is the county north of Edinburgh, so between Edinburgh and Dundee
Okay.
in Scotland. So for people here, it's like very north. In Scotland, it's like Midlands.
Okay.
And yeah, I grew up rural, like in a little small holding, some animals running around, very chill. And then I moved to a small village called Fruchi, which is a very small village of like 2,000. But for me, that was like a big deal because it was like,
Can you, for our audio listeners, please spell?
yeah, Fruchi, Freuchie.
Isn't that fruity?
No, it's not.
What,
No.
fruity? Nah, fair
So,
enough.
That was like,
Well, no, I'm not like correcting you. I was like, that's how I would perceive it if
Yeah.
I saw it.
yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, whenever I read words, I always read it as it is. That's what they say in Serbian. So whenever I go up north, either to like Scotland or to like anywhere, oh god, it's just the like the lettering's there. I'm like, am I dyslexic or I can't do this one
You
right
need
now?
the, yeah, Fruchi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to get some phlegm out the back.
Yeah,
of it.
exactly. Yeah.
Was never good at languages.
Fruity.
Yeah, but maybe like chill out a bit with it.
Fruity. Okay, we'll get there.
We'll get there. We'll get. By the end of this podcast, he'll be able to pronounce it. I won't.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, moved to there, but that was quite exciting because it had a bus route, so that was a big step for me.
Ooh.
Yeah, before
Branching
that,
out.
yeah, madness.
Madness getting
Big
a
city
bus.
girl.
Just a small town girl.
Yeah, literally. And then yeah, I went to high school. In terms of sport, I'd done like every sport at primary school, so I remember. Like even one time there was like a football camp and it was just me and my brother that had signed up for it. So me and my brother got one-on-one football coaching at my primary school for a
Nice.
week. Most of it's because my parents probably just wanted like free childcare.
I was gonna say your parents must have been loving it. It's like, wait, they're not gonna get into fights with any other kids, and they can just play footy
Yeah.
to their heart's content.
My primary school was really small. There was only like 35 of us.
In
so-
the whole school.
Yeah, the whole school.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean like I grew up, when I say rural, like rural. So there's only like 5 people in my year, including myself, all girls. And so we would do like, we did like a netball competition. It's like teams of 5, but like it was just my year. So you just got involved in every sport because
Oh, that's cool. So
yeah,
in a way,
there's no
like
choice.
in a way, like the inclusivity, despite it being a smaller, I don't know the word, but smaller group, sort of made things a lot more inclusive and gave you a lot more opportunity to try different things.
Yeah, I think you kind of just had to. And like everyone was quite sporty, I would say, in the primary
Okay.
school. So yeah, it was quite fun.
So-
And then I went to like a massive high school, and that was quite a
Ooh,
shock.
what was that transition like for you?
It was horrendous. Yeah.
Well, what was so horrendous? Was it the amount of people? Was it the location?
Yeah. How to describe it? So I went to like, it was me. There was like 4 other girls in my year. It was
Okay.
very chill. We were still playing like I didn't have a phone. It was like very, like we were still playing like make believe games in like primary 7 sort of stuff like that.
How
Like, I was
old are
very
you?
much like a kid, right?
Aren't you 27?
Yeah.
So she went to secondary school at the same time as we went to secondary school.
And no phones, nothing.
No, about primary school, I
Oh.
had no phones. And then I went to high school, and then it was like, oh, now I meet like the city kids. They weren't city kids, but they'd been to the towns.
Yeah.
And so they were like a lot
We are not
older, so to speak. So I think I was just like very much still a kid. And then I went and I was like, oh my God, like people like boys and like phones and all that sort of stuff. And I just had not prepared for that whatsoever.
I can relate to that. My Serbian parents, everyone had like a BlackBerry, like around 13 or 14.
Yeah. Hectic.
So a BlackBerry is a phone that's like.
No,
So everyone had a BlackBerry, and everyone used like BlackBerry Messenger. And the biggest thing like secondary school, and I was so late to it because I got a BlackBerry around like, when I was 16, 17, and by the time I had a BlackBerry, everyone was on iPhones, and my first phone ever was a phone from Toys R Us.
Was it real?
Yeah, it's one of those like it only has 6 numbers on it because like teaching you how to go up and down the numbers. No, actually, like a £35 throw-in from Toys R Us was on Vodafone, and within the first evening, because it didn't have Wi-Fi.
It's like 1.25 per text or something.
Oh no, that's even worse. I used up all my £10 of like £10 of credit within like 25 minutes because I was trying to figure out how to connect to the Wi-Fi using my phone. And I was like, wait a minute, I can't. Like, Mum's like, call me. I was like, can't. Why? Don't have credit. She's like, did you just? I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I had like my mum's old Nokia.
Oh, they're the best ones.
But it did have Snake on it.
Best ones.
No, that's Asda. Oh, I forgot the ringtone.
Hey man, don't get us don't get us banned, man.
So, yeah.
No. So how was it fitting in from your early upbringing in the small rural section to something a lot bigger?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't great. I definitely got like the full high school experience. You know, like bullied and like all that sort of stuff. It was pretty rough, but I think, you know, eventually like found my friends and, you know, some art nerds and like some of the weirder people who I could like chill out with a bit more. Who weren't, who didn't care as much about phones and stuff like that.
Join the club.
Yeah.
Came to the right place.
Yeah.
Came to the right place.
So I definitely was like one of those girls who would go and sit in the art room at lunchtime and like do more art.
Nice.
Or if there was like sports clubs, I would go and do that. So I was just like an extracurricular.
That's a nice
lover.
mix though. You got the sporty side, you got the artistic
Yeah.
side, the creative side.
Yeah.
This is gonna sound silly, but did those things ever like overlap in any kind of way? Those passions, or were they very separate?
I think I always just did everything.
Yeah.
So I always did like I did some strange acting things as well. We were like.
I actually found that on YouTube as well.
Oh my god.
No, I didn't find it on YouTube.
I was like, what did you find?
I dug deep.
Yeah, there's some like, but there was some really cool stuff we did as well. We actually like one of them at school. We went to train the children's panel. Do you know children's panel?
Yes.
So they like get kids support, and so they provide them like legal support. Or if there's like a family breakup and the kid's like stuck in the middle, the children might go to the children's panel and the children's panel make a decision. And so we did some training where we pretended to be like some of the kids and we ran a workshop with them. And so we were acting as those kids. So stuff like that I think is like super cool.
Awesome.
So there was like some strange experiences, but yeah, there was loads of mixed bag. I just basically, if anyone was like, oh, do you want to do this? I'm like, yeah, all right.
Imagine like, hey, do you want to set fire to a house? Like, nah, you know, I've got extracurricular stuff to do at school. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Talking about, so rural to city, then...
Well, it wasn't really city. It was literally like a town of like 20,000 people. But for me, that was like big. For some people in London, that's like horrendously small.
Yeah.
So I went from like genuinely not a single neighbor to in a village of 2,000. Fruki is 2,000 people. And then my high school town... like genuinely has like one supermarket, but that's
what supermarket was it?
It was Tesco's.
Or
yeah.
Was that back in the day when it was £3 for a meal deal?
Don't know, but they did a good techie brekkie.
Oh, jeez.
On the hang when you're like 17, like techie brekkie.
Don't know what that means. I didn't start drinking since I was 18. I'm a good egg, not like you, rural girls.
Yeah, wild.
Well, what else is there to do? So here we have the story. You came from a small village into a small town.
Yeah.
And 16 rolls around and you get a taster session for rugby.
Yes, kind of, yeah.
Okay.
At your local club of HOWE of...
Go for it.
No.
Can I see how it's written and I'll go for it?
Yeah, mate. It's right there under the... Wait. There we go. Fife.
But how do you say the whole thing?
How of Fife.
How of Fife?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Easy. Yeah, so I played badminton really competitively.
Oh,
Bit rogue.
Don't worry.
But like quite competitively. So I was in like the Fife badminton club and like trained quite a lot. And then I also was on the hockey team and everything. And then there was a group of girls who kept trying to get me to come along to rugby. And I was like, no, it's not cool. Like, I want to wear my skirts. Like, I don't want to play rugby. And then my PE teacher also kept saying, like, Fiona, I actually think you'd be quite good. Because I was a girl on the hockey team. I had, like, a spiky mouth guard. Because I was, like, come at me, like, let's go. Whereas a lot of the other girls were like, didn't want to hit it too hard or whatever. So I think she could tell I was a bit aggressive.
Fiona, you're playing the wrong sport. You're playing rugby.
Yeah.
But it's so much harder to hit people in rugby. Let me do it in hockey.
Yeah, so I would play like center midfield or center defense with this like spiky gum shield, and people would run at me, and I would just be like, let's go. And so I think she recognized that I had something that, you know, maybe I had a bit of aggression that I would need to get out. And I like badminton because you can like smash it as well.
Smash the cock as hard as possible.
Yeah, literally. So it was very fun. And then eventually I just went along for a taster session. I was like, oh, I'll just do it to keep fit for badminton.
Never happens.
Yeah, and then I hit somebody, and like we did contact session. I was like, this is the best thing I've ever done in my life. And then I have not looked back, really. It was just, the contact was just the one.
Was it when you made that first hit, that's when you were, that sold it for you?
That was it. Sold. It's so good. Like, and I honestly do think there's not many spaces, particularly for girls, to like be aggressive and it be okay. And so because contact sport is not particularly like a major thing that girls will do.
Yeah.
It was like the first time I'd done it and it probably could have been anything. I'm sure if I'd done like judo or something like that, but I really liked rugby because there is also a ball and it's like more engaging. Like it's like a team sport, whereas a lot of the other contact sports aren't.
Judo's not that bad.
I think I could have enjoyed it, but I think because it's not really a game. Like the purpose is to fight.
It's a one-on-one.
Yeah, whereas the rugby, like it is still a game, but you get a fight on the sides.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that.
What she means is it's controlled anger, smashing someone.
But the purpose is not to smash. The purpose is to win the game.
And
the
smashing's on the
tools.
side.
Yeah.
If I have to smash someone to win this game, I will smash someone to win this game.
Whereas in judo, it is just about like physical dominance. But I enjoy rugby has more.
My mum would disagree on that.
Yeah.
Extra though, because she'd be like, "No, it's all tactical." It's like, "Mum, literally, you throw people around, like it's no one's business."
Yeah, it's incredible. I think judo's amazing, and I think a lot of the contact sports are incredible. But I just enjoy that it's also, there is it's like a ball game as well.
Yeah,
but then
true.
you get to do some fighting.
There's also, if something bad happens, you have to blame other people on it. It's great.
That is the easy way out. Yeah, that's a good
just
one
be a
too.
scrum half. It's all right.
Yeah, exactly.
So you see how you like briefly said, "Oh, like I don't want to play rugby. I want to still wear my skirts and stuff like that."
Yeah.
When did that sort of bit of perception start to change when you started playing?
I think it's just a classic like 16-year-old high school girl thing. You just want to fit in, right? Like everyone's wanting to be in the hockey team for the scores.
Yeah.
Like I thought you're trying to fit in, you're trying to be that person.
Yeah.
And then I think as I then got a bit older, so 17, 18, then went to uni, I just kind of realized that didn't really, like you don't need to do that to fit in. Like why not do stuff that you really love just so that you look a certain way? And also, to be honest, like that was the first time I'd ever played a sport where actually being bigger and being stronger was a positive. And so for a 16-year-old, particularly a girl who's like dealing with so many body issues, I was like, wow, people might be complimenting me on the fact I'm like able to crush someone rather than me being self-conscious all the time about, oh, I'm too big, or oh, I have to get the biggest size and all the other girls on the team are wearing smaller sizes, all that sort of stuff. So it was quite a powerful.
That's really
moment,
interesting.
I think, yeah.
That's a reason why you didn't like swimming. Am I correct?
Oh, I don't know.
And in the because what was it in the thing you said 5 years ago? Because like you said, when you're a young girl, you want to fit in, and if you're a bigger girl, you're like, oh, I want to wear like the cute stuff everyone wears. And you said in the TEDx talk.
So I really bring that up a lot.
It's a main like there's literally trying to find stats on women's rugby. There's only two things. It's the Ealing Trial Finders little introduction to Fiona Cooper joining this season, and it's also your TEDx talk. And everything else is kind of a hit and a miss because there's several different websites. So Alternate Rugby, which a lot of people go on. There's also like Rugby 50, Rugby XV, everything like that. But they have all the stats for like men's and everything. That's all class. That's cool. But you try and find information on Fiona Cooper anywhere. And what I found out is that Fiona Cooper was actually born in 1970, on the 1st of January. It says she's 1.75 meters and plays as an outside centre.
It's actually not far off though, because I am 174, so close.
if you're not above 6 foot, you're below it. It's fine. But no, it's don't you think that even with the advancements in women's rugby, it becoming now you're able to watch it more freely, more readily, and everything like that, and even little girls as young as like 4, 5, and 6 are starting to play it. What's your opinion on the fact that you still can't find a good stream of information or any statistics? Because honestly, if I didn't have that article from England Trial Finders, I would have to be like, she might have played a handful of games last season. I don't know.
Yeah.
It would have been horrible. I would have come to this information like, so you play rugby, yeah? That's it. That's where the information would have stopped without Ealing Trial Finders.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's part of a bigger problem. I don't think, well, a fun fact for you, 4% of sports journalists are women.
4%?
4%. That was the last time I checked, so maybe that's changed. But there's a very disproportionate amount of men in sports marketing and media. Running podcast, no, I'm kidding. So there's like a lot of men that talk about sport, and they often talk about men's sport, and so the actual interest in terms of gathering information and recording it is probably quite small from their perceptions, and like, yeah, maybe they're just not aware. I guess it's not really. It's interesting because you're obviously like from the outside of women's rugby, so you're not like in it. Whereas when you're in it, there's like a lot of people will know a lot of information about a lot of players, and so I think that's, I guess, my question, maybe back to you, is like, how much would you really be looking up female rugby player stats unless you know you're going to have a conversation with me? Or is it something that you would look up for men?
I look it up because I actually do enjoy it, because this is one thing. I was going to get into coaching a bit ago, and I was told you should, if you want to get into coaching, a good place to start would be to coach youngers, but also it wouldn't be a bad idea if you went to go watch how to coach women's rugby too, because the skill level's there, even though sometimes, like as I was told, the skill level's there, the speed's a bit like 10% slower than men's rugby. He didn't want to like undermine it, but like coaching women's and coaching men's have more like of a complex where they want to be like, cool, you can coach me, but I know what I'm doing. Where with women's, because obviously it's a bit, there's a less of a like hit to like do women's rugby. If someone wants to coach women's rugby, they'll be kind of like more up for like, for coaches there, they want to give me a hand. That's nice, you know, because we have one of our ex-players who's coaching the women's at Wasps here, and you know, it's always nice when it's not just the men's getting that extra portion on the side of like having a good coach, but it's also the women's as well.
I actually really hate that, because I hate that like women's rugby is seen as an avenue to get experience for men's rugby coaching. It like immediately that puts it like as a secondary value. I think coaching women, and I have coached women, is actually very complex and like quite different to coaching men. And I find it so frustrating when people are like so often you'll see that even at the national level, coaches will go coach the women's team so they can then get a job in like the men's academy. And I think that's rubbish. Like, it's a different thing. Like, yeah, I agree that potentially the game's like slightly slower. I also think some of the skill level for some of the players may not be there, but sometimes the progression rate. So like, you might start a year with a women's team, half of the team don't know what they're doing, and by the end of it, they're playing at a really good level. The actual skill you need to coach players through that broad range is much higher than you do for the men's game.
Of course.
And I understand it happens a lot. Like, people will say like, oh, how do you want to get into coaching? People, oh yeah, coach kids and then coach women. I just hate that. Like, that's such a rubbish mentality, because it's like, well, so that means you're going to get experience from the women. You're going to take what you want from the women, and then you're going to go, all right, now I'm a good coach. See you later. And so what also happens in the women's game is you get a lot of coaches who aren't actually that great, or they aren't invested in like women's rugby. Yeah. And so you get, at some places you get amazing coaches, but sometimes at community levels you can have coaches who don't really care, and that's so detrimental to the longevity of the game and the improvement for the players. And so I find that like I understand why it happens, but I think it's like fundamentally like a bit of a sexist view of women's players.
Yeah, it kind of is. That's why I didn't go into coaching, because I looked at it, I was like, cool, fair enough. I'll take that in stride. Never went to coaching after that.
I love coaching. Go into coaching, but if you want to go into women's coaching, go into it because you believe in women's rugby and you believe in the female athletes. Don't do it just as like a pathway. So I completely agree. I've met some incredible male coaches who've coached women's teams, and some of my favorite coaches in my time have been men, and they have been amazing because they really care about the women's game and they want to just coach women because they've found that is like something that they are particularly good at, because they can engage with the women and they really get it, and also they really enjoy the challenge of that like broad skill range that you sometimes get a bit more of in the women's game. I've never met a good women's coach who uses it as an avenue to go into the men's game. They always like don't really care and don't really invest, and I always am like, I'm not interested.
So like, if I was to ask you, what kind of changes would you make to sort of bridge that gap of like getting into coaching, like in an ideal world, and if you were in charge and you could.
In charge of what?
In charge of
everything.
In charge of everything. In charge of like.
If you had the credit card that had the infinite sign on it, and you could literally, what's your ideal situation where you could? It's hard to do this one because it's hard to like. If you had every available resource in like arm's length, how would you change
the approach into getting into coaching?
I would pay female coaches the same amount, if not more, than male coaches to get the best talent.
Okay.
Same with the players.
Yeah.
If you pay coaches at the end of the day, it's their job. They're going to go for the best money for their work. They're going to probably go to places where they can get paid. In the women's game, the amount of pay compared to the men's game is shockingly low across the board. But people don't think about it for coaches.
Yeah.
Like, of course, you're then not going to get amazing coaches. There's a lot of teams, even in Scotland, like some of the Premiership coaches in Scotland are completely voluntary. On the men's side, that's their full-time job.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're a good coach, you're going to want to do it for your job if you want to do that. And so the amount, like, that means your coach is also working a full-time job and coaching. It's never going to be the same quality, or it's going to be like an extra stress, or there's going to be a higher turnover of coaches, or you're not going to have a full team of them. There's like all those things. So if I had the money, I would definitely pay for more female coach positions, and I would pay them well.
Yeah.
And I'd pay for enough coaches to support them in the right way.
And how do you feel about this pay disparity with the pay for women's and men's coaches, and to that extent, women's and men's players as well?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly get a bit tired of like being asked it, because people ask me a lot. I get it. I know it's like interesting, but I think so. There's different levels of it.
Yeah.
So I think I also did my research. So listen to one of your podcasts about how you're playing like level 6 and you got like pocket money.
Yeah.
And like I'm curious about what the commitment levels are in terms of the game, because I play in the Prem, was in the Scotland squad for a bit, on the edge of it, and I also only get pocket money. And so that's where I'm like, is that right? So that's like there's a whole bigger question. The fundamental principle that I hate is it is illegal in this country to pay people differently based on gender. And I can guarantee you, if you actually looked at the contracts for male players and female players, the job to do is the same. Now, if you were to create a contract where you said male players have to bring about X amount of revenue in order to deserve X amount of pay, I could understand it. But the problem is they don't put that in the contract, because you can't you can't measure that. It's impossible. So that means in sport across the board, men and women have the same contract and are paid different things only on the basis of gender. And I fundamentally, as like a human principle, think that nobody should be paid differently for the same job based on one of their identifying characteristics. So like that level. Now I would love it if we could say, you're going to be paid based on how much revenue you bring in for the club. But they can't do that because they can't measure it. And also, I will really be curious what would happen if they gave women that freedom to say, you'll be paid depending on how much sponsorship you can bring in. I think it would be interesting to see how that would happen, because the reality is all the men will just turn up and just do their job, the same as the female athletes.
Of course.
How is it right that you have contracts that are the same? Whereas in any other sector, like if I'm at like my regular job, my day job, and I was doing exactly the same job as someone else, same contract, and they were getting paid, I don't know, 40 times, 50 times as much as me, I don't know. I think I would take them to court, right?
100%. No, I agree.
Funnily enough, I feel like women rugby players work harder than male rugby players. Even though you can state the obvious, like, but men are stronger and hit harder. But they have a full-time job just playing rugby. They don't have to go training and then be like, okay, cool, I'm making X amount and I need Y amount, and there's a massive like gap in that like pay. How am I going to get through it? Like a lot of like female rugby players have their professional contract, and also have a job on the side like yourself.
Well, so I'm probably not even in that bracket. So there's definitely players who have their professional contracts who would be full-time professional contracts. I'm very much like, I have a full-time job and play. I see it as like rugby on the side almost, because it's in terms of the way it would be balanced. Whereas there's plenty of people on my team who might like fill the gap with work.
Yep.
Whereas I would not be able to afford to do that because I'm not at the level. I don't have a national contract. So you really only can do that if you have a national team contract. So
yeah, Ellie Kildon mentioned that in a recent interview with England players, that there's like 3 brackets. So instead of players getting the pay from the club, cut me off anytime I'm incorrect. So the players don't get paid directly from the club; they get more paid directly from the national team. And then there's like the brackets of like the high and the lower tier, and even then, a higher tier women's rugby player would get about 35 grand for the year. Whilst then, if you're looking, first 35 grand for the year to play rugby, right? That's not including sponsorships and stuff like that. Then a recent one was New Australian Rugby League. I think it was $20,000 for a game.
Yeah.
And you're like, you've done the exact same thing. You put your body on the line. Bit more for the women's because that 35k is for their year, whilst for the Australian Rugby League team, that's for one game. What? Okay, if we can do the conversion rate, that's 10 grand a game in pounds. How is it fair that they're getting that much and women are getting this much? And then you go through what you said before, the whole like argument of like, revenue this, revenue that, and you're so like,
sure. I would love it if they could make it. You could get your salary based on how much you as an individual athlete bring in revenue for the club, because there is absolutely no way that I think you can track that.
No.
There is no way Finn Russell knows exactly how much money he's bringing in for racing, whatever we call it.
Racing 92.
That one. How on earth could he measure that? So when people give me the argument of like revenue, I'm like, so you think it's just the athlete? Do you think it's my responsibility to bring in revenue as an athlete? Or is it the club's responsibility to also promote? Because even things like sponsorship, like how do you even get access to sponsorship? A lot of women I don't even know that question. Like, I don't even know I don't have family in business, or like, you know, my mate's dad or whatever runs a business. I don't have any of those connections. Like, that's just not a world that I have grown up in. And so I think as well, it's like it's part of like a bigger issue. And I think the women's game's going in the right direction. And I think the national contracts are fantastic. I think there is a significant gap between the people who are just sit outside of those national squads, who like myself, who are, you know, potentially there's like, you know, you're going to have a squad of like 30 to 45. But what if there's then the additional like up to 60 people who might be within those realms, who might be playing and have to play at the same level in order to get selected, but probably never going to get a contract. And then at the clubs, they're not going to get paid that much. You know, you're going to get change, really. Which, again, is better, and it's the first time I've ever been paid, which is incredible. But I'm not complaining at all. That I just don't think it's right that it's such a struggle. Like, I would love it if I could work 4 days instead of 5 days a week, and I could just have a couple afternoons on a training afternoon off, so I could go to training early to get skills instead of having to get up extra early when I get back at 10 p.m. and then go into work at, you know, 8:39, and then, you know, so it's like, it's that sort of stuff where it's like, you just need time. Like, time is just so precious. And like for a lot of the girls, they will be able to do that, but also then how are you saving? How are you planning for your future? How do you like manage finances? How do you invest? Pensions? Like, I just think it's a much bigger issue. Like, yeah, maybe you could survive on 30k a year in London. Maybe you could. It would be tough though. And you also, how would you then save? So when you finish your rugby career, you're not connected to the old boys network, so you can't start a whiskey business like some of the national team players do. How do you make money after that?
So this leads me nicely to something I wanted to ask you from the start. So it's like, what kind of strategies or routines do you have to balance your work life, your rugby, and your personal life? If any, how do you go about that?
I'm a big meal prepper.
Okay.
So I definitely prepare a lot.
We have an
on her
Instagram page.
She does have an
I
Instagram
do have a meal prep page. It's not a big deal, so please don't follow.
It's just in the bio. It's fine. It's open to the public and all that jazz. It's all good.
It's like I really enjoy it. So I enjoy meal prepping. So like I'll cook every Sunday, and then I'll make my lunches and breakfast for the full week. So then it means I can like eat well.
Yeah.
While also still training, because otherwise I don't want to just like get a sandwich or something for lunch.
Yeah,
I want to eat proper food.
Of course.
And then it's just got to be well organized, I guess.
So how do you stay organized?
I do think it's something that I've done for a long time now, so it's kind of hard for me to give you like tips, or like I don't know what my techniques would be, but I very much like everything is planned for the week.
Okay.
Probably like every hour.
Every hour. Oh god.
Yeah. So like today, I was like saying, could we do a different time? So that this morning I actually went to get a tattoo, and then I went to the supermarket. Then
you got a tattoo?
My stuff. Yeah.
Oh.
And then I dropped my stuff at home, and then I was like, okay, that means I can come here. Then I'll go home, and then I'll meal prep, and then go. So like I already was like planning that.
Okay.
It's not just like.
Yeah, it's not something you just do. It's something it's been so long now. You're accustomed to it.
Yeah, exactly. I do think you have to like plan in some time to just be a bit spontaneous.
Yeah.
But I still like plan in. I'll be like, oh, I have like a Friday evening. I'll just like leave it and see what happens. But I still will block out, that kind of time. So that's probably it.
Is there I wouldn't say difficulty, but when something sort of shakes everything up that you plan, how do you take that? Is that something
it's horrendous. Yeah, I hate it. Yeah. It's like everything's like finely balanced.
Yeah.
So if something would be like, let's say at work suddenly we have let's say at work we have like a bit of a disaster, and I've got to work like extra hours. That means my entire week is screwed. I don't need to swear, but
no.
It would be.
We've done worse. Don't worry.
But like your whole thing's just fucked, and so you're like, shit.
Oh, well, that was a big one. I didn't expect that.
We're gonna have to beat that out. I'm joking.
Yeah. So then it's like really hard. So you're like, okay, and then so let's say you're just like extra stressed, or, like for example, next weekend we have a training day on a Sunday. That means full training day on a Sunday. So then I'm like, well, I got to do all my organizing on the Saturday. So next weekend I really won't have a weekend, because I got to do like shopping, cleaning.
Good thing we got it today, eh?
I know. So it's like that's what I mean. So it can be quite difficult. So if there's things that change, or if like particularly if plans change last minute, and also one of the hardest things is just organizing with like family and friends.
Yeah.
That's probably the most difficult, because really while you're playing at this level, everyone just kind of has to adapt around you. So like at Christmas time, we have a game on the 22nd, and then I got to be back for the 2nd of January.
This is for Ealing?
Yeah. And so I'll go up on the 23rd. I got to see mum. I got to go see my dad. I got to see all my friends at home. I'll hopefully would try and get some chill time, and then I'm immediately back down. And so I think that sort of stuff, it puts a lot of pressure on them, that they really just have to fit your schedule. And I find that a bit unfair, and it's quite a shame. And like my best mate, she lives in Germany.
Okay.
And like sometimes I feel really bad, because she'll be like, "Oh, when are you next free?" And I'm like, "March." Like, I would love to have like a weekend off, but also you don't know if you're not selected that week.
Yeah.
Like, so maybe I would not be selected, then I could go do something. But then nobody else has that much flexibility within their schedule as well. So it's more that side of it that can be quite tricky, or
It's a lot. Yeah. It's definitely a lot.
It can be hard.
Routine and structure just seems like the foundation of how you live your life, though.
Yeah, and planning. That's what I hate when people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm too busy." I'm like, "Are you?"
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, but that's also just because I've done it for a long time. So I think now it's quite easy for me.
Did you have any teething issues with being that organized at the start?
When I say I've done it for a long time, I did this like in high school.
Oh right, okay. So this is your
because I just did everything. So I've always wanted to do loads of stuff.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
And so I don't know. There have been moments where I've like been burnt out.
Of course.
Particularly when I did my masters, there was a couple of times where I was just like didn't have any energy left. And there's definitely times where I can have kind of psychological like dips where just things get quite hard. Okay. And usually it probably means I'm trying to do too much.
So when you go through those kind of moments, how do you manage to recalibrate? How do you manage to get yourself back up to keep going?
I really like so I can just get a bit of a negative spiral. So I'll be like, this work's not going well. I'm playing so shit. Like rugby's so bad. Like blah blah blah. And so for me, it's just trying to every day just think of like positive things that happen. So at the end of the day, I do actually have like one of those like positivity journals. I'm not a big fan of gratitude because I find it a bit religious and I'm not religious at all. But like just write 3 nice things that happened that are disconnected to achievements. So I usually do that. So like I love bubble tea, so I'll be like, yeah, I had a great bubble tea today. It was really great, or like the weather was really nice, or stuff like that. So just like nice small things that you're like, okay, this is actually what life is really. And then so sometimes you can just get a bit distracted with some of the big stuff.
Of course.
So I'd say that's probably my favorite. Doesn't work for everyone. And then I also enjoy meditating every now and again. If I need it, if I feel quite stressed. I can like have a little meditation. Big fan of the Headspace app.
Oh, Headspace is great.
It's very good.
They got a thing on Netflix now as well.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they've got like a little series. It's like if you check on that, it's like episodes of each like what each meditation thing focuses on.
Oh, cool.
I really like Headspace as well.
It's great.
It's just the perspective and
and also you don't have to think about it.
I think in a way like there's no balance in between, in my opinion anyway. There's no balance in between. I feel like when you have a lot going on in your life, good or bad or work or whatever, it's like it's either good to really focus on something to keep you away from that, or it's really good to not focus on anything to keep you away from that. But 100%. Then in a way it's really, you're asking a lot of yourself in a way to do either. And there's like no sort of balance in that regard. But
I've been trying a bit better to like ask people for support as well. So like cause I've been quite, I think just the nature of doing a lot of stuff on your own. I've been quite, I'll just manage it by myself. And then I end up, burning out and crying. And my mum finds and calls me and is like, is everything okay? I'm like, no. Whereas now I'm a bit better at trying to like ask for support a bit earlier. So if I'm struggling with something, just ask a friend like, oh, how did you manage this? And then like talk about it, or ask my friends to be like patient with me because I'm just like really busy at the moment, or call my mum more regularly. Like classic.
I've got to commend you for that, because I believe asking for help is really difficult, especially in your case where you're so used to having everything so watertight. And like I always, whenever I have friends that have a problem going on, or they're struggling in some sort of way with whatever, the first thing I do is I always compliment them for coming to talk to me, whether it's just to tell me about what's going on or just to do something to distract themselves from what's going on, because I believe asking for help is a skill.
It's hard as well. Also because I'm quite a practical person, so I'm like, how can this person actually help with the situation? Whereas I'm definitely learning that they're not going to help with the situation. They're just there to help
just help you
talk about it and not stress. And you kind of realize then the things you're stressing about probably actually don't matter in the grand scheme of things. And so
of course
like if you miss a training session, it's not the end of the world. Or if you need some time just for yourself, like if you cancel something, it's not going to be disastrous. Whereas I'm very much like, if I've said I'll do it, I've got to do it. So
so for me this week, I actually know what you're talking about, because I was about to cancel training, like going training on Thursday, because I told T I was in Bury St Edmunds. So I live here in West Acton to Aylesbury for work, then from Aylesbury to Bury St Edmunds, so that's already 3 and a bit hours of driving. Then getting back from Bury St Edmunds to Aylesbury, another 2.5 hours of driving, so that's 5.5 hours already. And then I went to go into the van where my stuff was, and my brother locked the van from the outside.
Oh no.
And the spare key was in the van. And he's like, why is it in the van? I was like, because you guys rushed me this morning.
That is a good question.
And so, so I got in. It's like, you got to keep going, got to go Bury St Edmunds. I was like, yeah, I know, got to go Bury St Edmunds. It's a 2-hour drive, leave me alone. And then I was like, driving back to London, so like another hour driving, so that's 6 hours of driving. And I messaged my coach, being like, hey Rich, just letting you know, I won't be at training today. I've had a long day of driving, this, that, the other, because that 6 hours of driving doesn't include working. And there was like a three and a bit hour fit. And I'm saying like, gosh. And then I got home, dashed all my stuff into the car after driving a van home, went up to Amersham, another 40-minute drive there. So I had nearly 8 hours of driving that day to go for an hour and a bit rugby session. And you're like, I just spent so much time driving just to go to an hour and a bit session. Was it worth it? Did it help? Yeah. And then my trainer comes up to me afterwards. He's like, I saw your message. I was about to message you being like, mate, you have to make the training. You're starting on the weekend. I was like, yeah, but life is getting in the way right now.
Yeah.
And, you know,
And that's, yeah, sometimes some weeks it helps. Sometimes some weeks all you need to do is just have training and not think about anything else. And it's actually getting to training once you're there. It's like so much better. And then some weeks you're just like, I just need to like not do anything.
I need to put my face in a pillow and just like start screaming and get to sleep. Okay, let's ease off a bit on everything, and let's go back to the Tesco.
Okay.
Back in the village. Back in the little town.
Cooper, funnily enough.
Funnily
Same
enough.
as my surname.
Ooh.
Is it because you were the only people that lived there?
Yeah. Spelled differently.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, how do you spell it?
COOPER.
No, that's how you spell. That's
yeah,
your
the town
one.
is Cupar.
Oh, so like copper.
No.
No,
Cooper.
like I'm talking
Yeah,
phonetically. If
I know. Yeah.
forgive my southern ignorance.
Southern.
Yeah.
You're not English.
No, but you know, like based on upbringings and where we are and stuff
You
like
mean
that.
downbringings? Because she's from up, we're from down.
You're not English.
I'm mixed. So
Okay.
my mother is Spanish and my dad's Egyptian.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
And you're also not English.
No. My parents are from ex-Yugoslavia.
Okay.
So we all had little travels into
Yeah,
London.
That's exciting.
yeah.
And okay, so what was I going to ask
Sorry,
you?
Tesco's.
Tesco's meal deals. Okay.
Okay.
I know you're an avid meal prepper,
I do love a meal deal, obviously, as well.
but when you don't have the time to meal prep, or you're like, this lasagna ain't hitting the spot,
Okay.
or this falafel just hitting the one,
Yeah. Or just a snack sometimes.
what is your go-to meal deal
Okay.
at Tesco's or Sainsbury's? Because I got my one down to a T. Tarek knows what it is, but I want to know what your one is.
Okay.
That's
I
a
have
great
to admit,
question.
And I will
think
give you a
will hate
I will
me.
give you a
Yeah,
rating on this
I
as
think
well.
you might hate me for it.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm scared.
So I'm obsessed with particularly Tesco's ham and cheese sandwiches.
Okay.
Yeah. And I know it's not like best value for money in the meal deal. I know there's like sandwiches you can get like triples and everything. But I just cannot get I am obsessed with the Tesco's ham and cheese sandwich.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I don't like the M&S one. It's too fancy. The cheese is too strong. I want like cheap cheese. And I want just the perfect amount of mayo, which they do in Tesco's.
Fair.
And it's just like on the hang, if you're hungover, Tesco ham and cheese sandwich is like the best thing.
So.
And then
Snack.
I would choose. So then I would also always get Diet Coke because it's definitely my biggest vice. I'm probably addicted, but it's fine.
That's fine.
Snack. Okay.
Make or break.
Make
Yeah.
or break.
I think you're gonna hate me as well. I love a packet of Quavers.
Oh, fair.
No, Quavers
Okay.
is good.
It's just air.
Yeah.
But I
nah,
really
Yeah, so it's
enjoy.
light. No calories. It's all good.
Or sometimes I'll get some Doritos. But
Fair.
it's
Which
always
ones?
a crisp.
Which ones though?
Depends on the mood.
Hot and spicy.
Depends on the mood.
blue, red. Well, what kind of mood do you have to be in to get a certain Dorito?
You'd love a multi-pack, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You'd love like the mix and picks version.
Like
eh?
sometimes I like really in the mood for some cheese.
Okay.
I also occasionally get cheese strings on the side just for fun.
love
Wait.
cheese strings.
But
love
they're
cheese
obviously not
strings.
included in the meal deal.
You don't bite them though, do you?
I do bite them.
Oh my.
I just
God.
like
That's
the whole thing.
That's a sin.
Nah, do you know
In
what I
like
do?
3 bites, they're gone.
3 bites, amateur
Yeah.
hour, 2.
Honestly, in America, when I lived there, you can buy like packs of like 40 string cheese.
You can buy packs of 40 everything in America.
Yeah, and they would be like, they're just so good because like quite salty, and I would eat them just like nothing else.
You know, speaking of America, let's talk about your university experience.
Sure.
So yeah, how did the opportunity arise to come to America?
So I applied for, it's called the Bobby Jones Memorial Fellowship,
Okay.
but it's basically the scholarship from St Andrews
Okay.
where you can go. Where you can go and study, and you could do like a master's.
Yeah.
So I applied to that at St Andrews, and then they said I was successful, which was very exciting. So I was the 2018 Memorial Fellow.
Okay.
I don't know if you know anything about Bobby Jones.
I'm afraid not.
No,
I
he's
think
like,
he has an award for people to go to.
yeah,
No, nothing.
that's what it was. That's what I got. But he's like a golfer, and so he was like because I went to St
okay.
Andrews. He was like a very famous amateur golfer. He created the Masters.
See, we have to dive into more sports, mate. That's what it is.
I mean, honestly, I'd never played golf in my life. I'm not that interested in it. But St Andrews is obviously the home of golf.
Pub golf.
also has great pub golf. There's fantastic pub golf there. But also that's where he had like a kindred spirit, and that's why they had this partnership. So basically someone from St Andrews goes across, and then someone from Emory also goes to St Andrews. And so there's like the scholarship and then the fellowship. Scholarship's 1 year where you don't do a master's, and the fellowship's where you do a master's. So there's like with a few of us that went across. I was the fellow, so then got to do a master's in Atlanta, which was incredible. And I studied, it's called Masters in Development Practice.
Okay.
Which is technically like an international development degree, but it's basically about things like the UN, Oxfam, international charities, and how they work in different contexts, and also how it's all a scam and like a way for rich white people to push money into countries that they don't belong in. So yeah, that's like,
I always knew it.
yeah, that's kind of what you learn mostly, is how it's like.
How was that transition of moving from the UK all the way to the
It was the
United
best thing in the world. I have wanted so hard to get out of Fife.
Okay.
So I actually studied in New Zealand as well for a bit.
Really?
At the University of Auckland on a year abroad.
Correct. Except it wasn't a year, it was only a semester. But yeah.
Nearly though.
It was great. And I like lived in a van for a bit as well.
Okay.
And like traveled about in New Zealand. And so that was like the first time I'd lived somewhere else. And it was amazing because Scotland is very small. Like it's like what, half the population of London is the whole of Scotland. Yeah.
Wow.
It's 4.5 million. And so I really enjoy anonymity.
Okay.
I find it very, like, it's quite a peaceful place to be when nobody really knows who you are. And so I enjoyed being at, because I went from St Andrews, which is like a university of 9,000. Everybody knows you. Like, you bump into people all the time. It's like 3 streets, tiny town.
Especially the star player of St Andrews rugby team as well.
Definitely not. And then when I went to Auckland, it was like a uni of 40,000 in a big city. Nobody knew who I was. It was incredible. I was like, I need to leave Fife. And so then when I had the opportunity to go to Atlanta, I was like, yeah, this is the best thing. And Atlanta was just incredible. Like,
you literally took the midnight train going anywhere.
Yeah.
That's like that.
No, it was amazing. I would honestly, it's not probably a great place to visit because it's not like that much to do. It's like Glasgow and Manchester. It's like,
there's a little bit to do.
there's like bits, but it's not, you're not really like a tourist destination. But it's an incredible place to live. Same probably with Glasgow and Manchester.
Yeah, no, I went to Glasgow once. Had a great like Weatherspoons. Like it was a class Weatherspoons.
Which one?
The one like in the centre. Like
There's a couple.
I forgot about that one. Yeah,
this
no.
guy ain't been Glasgow.
Honestly, Glaswegian accent, it hit me like a stack of bricks. So my brother sat down. We went up there to watch the Red Star.
Oh yeah, the Red Star versus Rangers.
Yeah, went to go watch that, and I was like, yeah, I'm here for football. And some guy came in with a Glaswegian accent. I looked at him. I looked at my brother. I looked back at myself through my phone. I was like, huh? And my brother then like in Serbian, he's like, boy, in there, what's he talking about? I'm like, I don't know. I looked at him again, like listened to him one more time. I was like, he's just asking where you can find some cat in Serbia, really. And I was like, well, he's like, yeah. He went on and on and on and on. And he's like, yeah, no, but like, I really want to know where I can find drugs in Serbia. And I was like, mate, honestly, good luck to you. And I got off the train straight away. But no, like, especially because you went from staying in Scotland, then going to New Zealand, coming back, and then shooting off to Atlanta. Like you've travelled, you've been quite a bit, haven't you? Everywhere.
Yeah, I enjoy travelling.
I know your job involves a lot of travelling as well.
Yes.
So a big part of that little paragraph I read about you in your little job description thing was inclusion.
Yes.
So what I wanted to ask you was, what is inclusion? What does inclusion mean to you?
That's a big question.
We'll break it down.
So I would say inclusion is actually justice.
Okay.
So I think everybody deserves the right to be included and feel included in a space. And so, like when you talk about like gender equality, I prefer terms like gender justice. So it's about shifting the political and societal inequalities in order to make people feel safe and included in whatever environment they want to be in. So yeah, I don't know if that helps.
No, that's a great answer.
Okay.
Better than anything I could have thought of. Let's because we've talked around your job, but why don't you give us an insight on what your job actually
Sure.
is?
Yeah, so I work for LIS Sport for Good, which is an
Okay.
international charity that uses sport to tackle inequality
Yeah.
around the world. And is specifically focused on young people. And so what the organisation does, we're essentially a funder, but we fund grassroots community development organisations that are doing sports programmes in different countries. So, for example, if WASPs was to have a community development programme,
Yeah.
they don't, but if they were to have specifically a community development one, they could apply to us for funding. And we would fund the likes of WASPs and also provide them with help around how they can, have better governance structures, better finance, how they measure impact better, etc. So that's like the organisation. My job is I'm responsible for how the organisation measures impact.
Okay.
So there's a very technical field called monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning, which is what I'm responsible for. And so essentially we're giving money to organizations, but we're also getting money from organizations like Nike.
Okay.
And Nike want to know we're changing the game for girls' sports. How do we actually prove that? And so there's different like reporting techniques and measures that you can use, but also things like inclusion. Like how do you actually measure inclusion? And how do you actually measure like peace building? And how do you measure gender equity? And so how do you also measure it in sport? And then how do you do it at a local level? But then also how do you create something systematic across at the top level, so you can say not only is that program in Acton doing XYZ, but also this program in Kenya is doing very similar things, and they're both having a similar impact on young people, so that at a top level we could talk about it. So that's what I do.
Wow.
It's a bit nerdy, to be fair.
No, nothing nerdy about it.
The summary on the website was 275 programs in 50 different countries, and you've definitely done this in the mirror a few times, haven't you? It's like, this is how I'm gonna describe my job. You
Like
can't.
guys on Hinge will ask you like, "Oh, what do you do for work?" And you're like, "Yeah, so here we go."
And they'll be like, "Huh, what about rugby?" It's like, oh god.
Yeah. So no, I love my job and get to travel a lot. It's super cool and like. It's very rewarding, and to be honest, I think there's a lot of people who probably put on the earth to play rugby. I have never felt that. I felt like my job is what I was like here to do.
That's amazing.
So like, definitely think it's. Yeah, I've always wanted to work in sort of community change, social justice sort of things. I didn't know whether it was possible to combine sport, so I've managed to find a place where I can do that. And also, I'm really interested in like accountability. So international organizations, often based in the West, working in other countries, how can we make sure they are accountable to the communities they claim to serve, rather than just like taking nice pictures and being like, oh yeah, we're helping kids. Well, you're actually changing the community in a positive way, in the way that the community wants it to change. I think that's like an essential component, and that's really what the impact measurement piece does, in my view, is like, okay, Nike say they want to help girls. How do we also help Nike know what's helping girls in those communities? So a bit of a mixture.
It's a lot of guidance as well in terms of like what people perceive to be help, and then how they can actually implement that help positively.
And also how people want to be helped.
Yeah.
Like it's more about like if you were to ask like if you were to say like what's the big issues in your community in terms of men and what you would you want to change, rather than someone external saying I think this is an issue for men and this is what we think we should change, and you're just then like a recipient of it. So it's more about like that two-way process, like I don't know what issues would be for like guys and playing rugby, but like it's important that you would also say, it's important you have the right to say this is the help we need, rather than being like this is the help I'm going to give you, and if you don't want it, we'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it's that type of conversation.
Okay.
And I think, and also a lot of like data, and like companies also care about impact stats. So it's
what
about telling the story.
Companies love stats.
Yeah, and they love a good story. So it's about trying to like play that middle ground between telling a good story and also trying to like hold accountable. So yeah, funnel some money from the private sector into the hands of people who
need it more.
Yeah, exactly.
We need more of that.
Yeah,
everywhere.
100%.
Every sport, every location, every destination.
No, seriously though, if it was possible to do that on a worldwide community basis, that would, because even even in just London alone, there's so many areas that are like underfunded, not looked after.
100%.
So many kids find themselves on the streets because
100%.
There's no access to anything.
Yeah.
And there's no access to an outlet that can keep them focused on one thing. And
We have a very cool project in London, which is also across other cities, called Model Cities,
Okay.
or Sport for Good Cities. And what happens is that essentially over a few years, we support the community to come together and build a coalition.
Okay.
And the coalition then decide where they want to spend the money. So there's one in Barking, Hounslow, and Haringey. And so those are the three coalitions and they're all for like sports charities or like sports clubs. So Barking Rugby Club actually is the one that kind of runs it
Really?
there. Yeah, so they're like part of the coalition group. They don't run it, but they're like the lead organization that's helping do it.
Funny enough, I used to play
Oh,
not
really?
for them, but I used to play at a club that trained at their ground and used their facilities.
Oh, cool.
And
Yeah, they let everyone use the facilities, and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
like they have this really cool like Muslim women's sports club there, and they like come in and like
Wow.
use the facilities, and so it's just like a hub, but also it's really important that people and like community groups like that are also making the decisions about where they want the money to go, because the reality is like me sitting in the office in Fulham, I'm not going to make the right decision for the community members in Barking.
Of course.
And so there's that sort of stuff that I think is like, yeah, it's great. And I do think, like, you've seen the news, I don't know if you've seen the news recently, but like a lot of councils they're underfunded and need a lot more money, and they're not able to do what they used to do. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of need for it.
This is gonna sound like slightly deviating, but basically, I lived in East Acton, so you've got Old Oak Road, yeah, and it's a busy road that leads to the motorway and whatnot.
Okay.
And but on one side, so on this side of the road, you got Hammersmith and Fulham Borough,
Okay.
but then right across the road, you got Ealing Borough. And this is a busy road with no like traffic lights or like one zebra crossing of this long road, and like none of those two local authorities can agree to build a zebra crossing just for people to cross the road safely. I mean, I know it might not sound relevant like that, but it's like just something as simple as that.
It's difficult.
Like they don't want to take any kind of responsibility and but then if I mean, this is something that I was told, so I'm not gonna take this for like gospel, innit? I'm not gonna act like
Someone spilt the tea and Tarek's
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna
just-
spill it on live.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I mean, it kind of like if that is a 100% true fact, like it does sort of go back to how a lot of councils are underfunded and how they're not willing
and
to
politics
put money.
as well, right?
Yeah,
All about the politics.
Yeah.
We love a good politic.
It's hard, it's a shame because all it means is that kids miss out, and that's really what like the work's about, and like that's what I care about, is that really kids just want opportunities. And so you see that like people will be fighting over like resources and where to spend it, and then they'll fight over it for 5 years, but that kid who was 7 is now what, 12.
Yeah,
Quick
maths.
And then they've already missed out, so like what's the point? So there's the stuff like that where you're just like it's frustrating, but I wish there was unlimited funds.
I mean there is,
and some
but
different
there
governments.
is, but there isn't. If you look at it, because unlimited funds go into someone's pockets. That's just a theory. But I feel like talking about that and talking about funding, the biggest, like one of the current ones are the fact that schools are closing. A lot of schools are closing, and it's like I've had mates, I've had coaches who are teachers and everything losing their jobs because there's no funding into a school sector. And so if you can't get funding into a school sector, how are you going to get funding into a sector where it's a hobby for kids trying to do sports?
Yeah, I mean, I fundamentally disagree with a lot of the policies the current government are pursuing in the UK. So I think it's interesting from, obviously I sit a very international perspective with work, but I can see that there's like a lot of problems, but it's very similar problems that will be happening in different countries as well. But yeah, I mean,
that's a whole.
Go and vote the right way.
That's a whole another podcast episode.
100%.
You free next week?
Vote for your idea of politics, but also vote so your credit score goes a bit higher. That's a good reason why.
So just to deviate from the work life.
Do you want to go back into the original podcast, or do you want to deviate from the deviation?
No, we deviate from the deviation. There's no original podcast. We're just going as we go.
This is LIS pod. LIS doesn't mean anything. It just means life in sports, in and out,
open.
Like tennis. Let's go.
What do you mean, like tennis? Let's go.
Like a tennis rally, or like the Open, and like going back and forth.
Yeah.
Anyways,
let's talk a little bit about your rugby playing career and stuff like that. So
Because there's no statistics on it online, so you got to tell us all
Yeah.
from the beat. Any tries, any conversions, any drop kicks.
okay, no, we don't need to know that.
I do. I need to know.
Okay, you need to know. But I want to talk about how you got, where you've played and how you got into it. Let's start simple like that.
Okay.
Well, we've
So,
already gone through that
How
she
Fife.
was at How Fife, and then she was also there for the senior team while she was at St Andrews.
Okay.
Went to. I'm just literally summarising what we've said in the past. I'll
Test.
stop when we get back to. When we get to Atlanta, I'll stop.
Okay.
So How Fife,
And St Andrews Uni.
St Andrews Uni, both senior squads. Went to University of Auckland. You played for the Uni of Auckland for a team that had 6 players from the Black Ferns in it, and
And someone I currently play with at Trailfinders, which is very fun.
from
Really?
that.
Yeah.
And she said that semester there really improved her game, improved her knowledge of it.
It's a bit more fun than that though. That's a bit dry. So really, it was because we went, and so I was like at least 10 kilos smaller than I am now. And I was like young, and I'd obviously played in Scotland, and everyone in Scotland's quite small.
Yeah.
And I went across, and they asked me what position I was when I went, and I said I was a forward, and they genuinely laughed because I was so small.
I got the exact same thing when I said I was a flanker, back row. I was like, mate, go to the wing. I was like, fair enough.
Yeah, I'm sadly not quick enough to do that. And then we were doing like scrummaging and stuff, and I was like scrummaging against the front, like New Zealand front row, and she was like, "You need to squeeze to like get your knees off the ground." And I genuinely was squeezing so hard. I thought if I squeeze any harder, I'm actually gonna shit myself. And so I could not. She was like, "Fiona, why are you not doing anything?" She's like, meanwhile, not even trying, and I'm like, to try and like get into a scrummaging position. So it was like when I say like it improved, it was because it was like you got to improve or you're going to just crash and burn. And also you're running against like Pacific Island women who, my goodness, they are just so strong and so quick. And so it was quite a steep learning curve. I actually didn't manage to get much game time because in the second game I broke my collarbone. But
Is it good now?
it's good now. But it was I remember there was a Pacific Island lady who was running at me. And she was like twice the size of me and probably twice as quick. And I was like,
And the same position. She was probably a flanker as well.
I don't know. Maybe she was like a winger. And she was like, I was like, mind over matter, Fiona. Mind over matter. No. Matter v matter. Matter one. And yeah, so I snapped my collarbone. So that was unfortunate. So I kind of came at like a difficult time. But yeah, it definitely was a bit of a shock to the system. And it helped me realize that you need to get a lot better and, you know, maybe go to the gym a bit more consistently and eat a bit more.
Yes, get some feeds in you.
Yeah, exactly. So that was good. So it wasn't just like, oh, it was loads better and it was great fun. It was like, it was really hard.
So from Auckland,
Yeah.
did you move back to the UK?
Came back. So I'd also done Scotland under 20s as well in my second year.
What was that like?
Yeah, it was
the international setup.
Yeah, it was good. I'd never done it before, and I don't know, I've always been one of these players that kind of like is on the fringes, and then I always feel like I have to ask to be involved. So I was like, I really want to do this. I don't know how people are doing under 20s. So I was like, I just want to go for like a trial. So then I called my coach, who was somehow connected to someone in the Scotland setup, and then they invited me in, and then I was captain of that year. So that was quite cool.
That wasn't in the stats. See,
Well, there you go.
it's always good to ask.
So yeah, so I captained them. So that was quite a shock because again, a lot of the players had done it for like 2-3 years because they'd gone through the age categories, whereas I was just like, hello. So that was a bit of a surprise. And then from there, they invited me into some Scotland camps, but it was horrendous and I hated it.
Why was that? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, I just was very overwhelmed, and I just didn't think anybody was very nice. I'm sure they were, but I was like 18. I was like 20, and I just probably wasn't the right time. I probably wasn't confident enough. Like I didn't know what I was doing. It was like very stressful, very high pressure, like very serious.
Well, that was like 4 years into your rugby career, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so obviously there was a few of us who were younger who they'd brought up, but I basically said to the coach, I don't think I'm ready for this, which he said he respected. And then I went to New Zealand, came back, and then I was like, okay, I think I might be a bit more ready now.
Okay.
After the collarbone.
Yeah, played against the big boys. Now I know what we can do. And then I did like I got invited to do like East versus West. So they used to split East West Scotland.
Okay.
To like do some training games.
Who'd you play for?
East.
Nice.
Yeah.
I actually have a hoodie that says East on it.
Doesn't it?
Not related to Scotland whatsoever, but like, you know, it says East.
Yeah. So that was quite fun. So I played quite well, and so as a result of that, they then brought me into the pathway setup, which meant I was like gymming once a week at a pathway in Dundee, and then I actually got invited into a camp, but it was the same week as my interview for my scholarship.
Okay, for the masters.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I decided not to do that, and I decided to do the interview, and so that was quite probably like a big fork in the road decision.
Yeah.
And so I mean, right decision for me, but every decision that you make, like right decision.
Several years later, you're here on the LIS pod. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. So that was like quite a big thing, and then so I chose that one, and then because I moved to America, I wasn't on like the pathway or anything.
Yeah.
And then I came back in COVID, so obviously had a year of no playing. Oh, sorry, when I was in America, I played for Atlanta Harlequins.
Oh, how many Harlequins are there?
I know.
Many Harlequins. There's the amateur Harlequins. There's the rugby league Harlequins.
Was there a big difference in like, because so at this, when you went to America at this point, did you already do your semester abroad in New Zealand?
I'd already done it, yeah. So
how? Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, so we're talking like how different and how vast were those rugby cultures? Because you have your rugby culture in Scotland, the time you spent playing in Auckland, and now you're in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So how much did the rugby culture differentiate, and how much similarities did they have as well?
Yeah, I definitely think it's great because like wherever you go, you can just find a group of women who are pretty friendly and like lovely. I think I was at a point where I was a bit fed up with rugby when I went to the US.
Okay.
And so I decided I didn't want to take it as seriously, and so I joined a more like chill club team, but it was the best culture I've ever experienced. So they had like certain rules. You couldn't say sorry, so if you made a mistake, obviously if you hit someone in the face, you're gonna say sorry. But if you like dropped the ball, you couldn't say sorry. And the aim of that was that women apologize too much for just like existing in space, and you're in training, so you're meant to make mistakes. You're meant to learn from them. So if you did say sorry, you had to run the length of the pitch, and they had a cutout effigy of Beyonce. And you had to kiss her because Beyonce doesn't say sorry, right? I ain't sorry.
That's
because you were British, because we always say sorry in England.
Well, we also do that. So that was like some things like that, and also like just so much positivity. And it was very much like the club, the players decided. I've been in teams where like it's like the coach's team, whereas it was almost like the team's coach. And so it was very much every decision around like selection. So we all agreed on like voting system about players who get below a certain percentage of attendance would not be eligible for games and all that sort of stuff. So it taught me a lot about how to build good culture and how it was important to have good culture, and also to be around so many like very empowered women in Atlanta, like completely shifted my perspective of what sport could do in that regard. And so yeah, incredible.
Sounds like a very enriching experience.
Very, very enriching.
Personally and
100%. It was like probably, if I hadn't done that, I could have potentially just not played at a high level ever again. And so because of that, and because I like fell back in love with it, because of the women there, then I was like, oh, actually, like rugby's amazing, and the women are amazing, and I can do it in a way that is right for me rather than just going through the same path that everybody else was doing.
How much of that have you managed to implement in your own rugby playing now since post-America?
Yeah, I definitely don't say sorry as much. And also, because when I came back, I also coached Napier University women's team. And so I was a head coach for them for the year. And I also implemented the same like cultural rules. And they actually then won the league that year. So I think some of those things are just like foundations of just so many things about like about self-confidence and how you perceive yourself and all that sort of stuff I learned, and I carry it with me forever. I have like Atlanta Harlequins stuff that I will just keep in my bag, and I have this one t-shirt that we had on our like tour, and it says like overtake, overpower, overcome. And if I'm ever having like a bad day in like rugby, I'll wear that t-shirt and it just reminds me of the culture there. So very, very important.
That's amazing.
So you went to America for the Beyonce, but Beyonce came back with you to
England. that I find that really interesting because me personally, I started playing rugby into my 20s, like just post-COVID sort of thing, this and that. So like, so I'm 27, so I started playing at like 24, 25, just getting into it, whatever, finding something new to do. Hard times hit me, and I've always been a guy that says sorry. Like I've always been a guy that says sorry, whether it's I position myself wrong, or whether it's I dropped the ball, or whether it's I fucked up the line out call, and when they shout the number and I just didn't get it. And then like when I make a silly mistake like that, it's like I find it so overwhelming that I feel ashamed of myself, because part of me is like, I'm learning a sport that a lot of people have been playing, if not their whole lives, half their lives. But then at the same time, it's like, I feel like I'm catching up to everyone else.
But that's the point, isn't it? You're learning, right?
Yeah, I know.
So that's why I was like, if you can't make mistakes in training and you can't make mistakes in sport like that, where are you going to do it? That's literally the point of it, right? It's a point of training is you meant to learn from it. And so I think that was what it shifted for me.
The other day, for example, is like, so this is my 3rd season at Wasps. My 1st season I was very on injuries. 2nd season I was more out than in. 3rd season today is like, as I said, like off camera, I was trying to wean myself back in. And like, so on training on Thursday, not outing no one, but someone said to me, "You've been there long enough. You should know the line out calls." And like, I get the point.
What did you say back?
I didn't say anything back. I was just,
I didn't know. You've been here long enough not to be a dick.
Yeah.
Honestly, I said everyone's like to me is like, you know, Tarek. I was like, look, right. He's trying his best. That's all that you need to do. You guys aren't like looking. You guys aren't getting paid. It's a hobby, so you shouldn't be a. I want to say the word, but I don't want to say it at the same time. So I have to say the word dick instead. You can't be a dick to him because obviously everyone has their issues. Like if I could, I'd point at everyone and be like, look, you did this wrong. You did this wrong. At the end of the day, there's no point in doing that. Because like I still say sorry. I've started playing rugby when it's like 11, 12. I say sorry. But then, like, if I don't, like, if someone starts, like, chatting to me about, oh, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, I'll look at them, I was like, yeah, well, it was my decision, so just...
Well, isn't everyone always trying their best?
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you're not doing well one day, you've probably got something else going on. And that is something, like, definitely with trail finders, like, Giselle, the coach there, she's very good about, you know, nobody intends to make a mistake. So why on earth would you... pull someone up on it. Now, people might if people get stuff wrong consistently, maybe it's not a mistake, maybe they just don't know, and in which case then you can say like, hey, what's going on here? But nobody intends to like drop a ball. Who would intend to do that? Nobody intends to miss a tackle. Nobody intends to like mess up the line out call. You're not thinking, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to mess it up. I'm going to
fuck shit up for my team.
This doesn't work like that. And I think I think at that club they really recognized that, and it really helped me because then it like took the pressure off me a bit, and then you can play. And when you play and you're not worried, that's when you actually play good rugby.
Yeah, I think, sorry. When you said the sorry thing, that was just a big eye opener for me, and just sort of made me, because like the longer I've played, the more I think people expect me to know. Yeah. And I feel like, I should know, and I've learned a lot from day one to now. But then it's like, I don't know, like information overload.
You're also just doing your best.
Yeah, like
if they don't,
like, there's a lot to it.
I don't know. I just find it's like put so much expectation on people. Like, people really do try. And don't get me wrong, like, in the heat of the moment, you can get frustrated with people. And on a pitch, you might be like, oh, you've not done that right. Yeah. But when you actually think about it, I do think everyone's trying. And that's what, with the club I coached, you know, every time anyone would say sorry, I would count it. And then whenever we'd have a break, I'd make everybody do burpees for the number of sorries that was said, like in a drill.
Between like everyone in the session.
Yeah, so if one person said it, everyone's doing burpees. So if we have like 5 sorries, you're going to be like 10 burpees.
You said sorry. Oh, sorry. That's another one.
Yeah. Obviously, if you do, like, there was times where people would like accidentally like hit someone or chuck the ball at their head or something, and then they can say sorry and that doesn't count. Because that one is like, oh goodness, I'm really sorry. Yeah, exactly. But just in terms of, and so many, you see it as well, like when girls would join and they would start playing and they would say sorry for every single thing. And I'm like, you are in here week 2. If you can't catch a ball, that's fine. You're week 2. Like, just wait. Like, give it 5 years. And then you can then, you know, maybe if you then drop one and it's a big one, you can be like, oh, sorry, guys. But you're not going to take it the same way. Like, how can we expect people to just start a sport? Or even, like, be training in a sport and just be perfect?
I think playing sport can, like, depending on how confident you are in the sport, can really bring out a vulnerability in yourself. And because in a way you're exposing and expressing yourself in a complete different way out of the ordinary from any kind of day-to-day life.
100%.
And especially like when you add the competitiveness in there, you sort of find yourself like suddenly you're part of this group that wants to get over the line, but then you want to fit into that group, but then you want to do your best, but then you kind of, in a way, I'm talking from my perspective anyway, I don't want to speak for everyone, but then you kind of find yourself like, you want to do your best, but you don't want to do your best enough to make a mistake that upsets the rest of the group. And I'm not saying I play in a group that is like that at all, like, but it's just this subconscious feeling of wanting to make everyone happy with what you do.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
pressure,
at the same,
isn't it?
and it's pressures that you put on yourself, like. And I've seen loads of people put pressure on themselves, like whether it's to just, oh, I want to make it as a pro athlete, or I want to do this, or I want to do that.
Thanks, man.
I really struggled with it to the start of this new season as well. So like we're moving to Trail Finders.
Yeah.
And it's like more competitive, and then I got a moped in June, and then I came off my moped and like on the way to training. And so I was like really rattled, and then I like missed a week of training because of that. And then I just had put so much pressure, and I felt so paralyzed I couldn't actually play. And then I don't know what it was, but I just had a bit of like oh fuck it, just enjoy it. Like how many opportunities you're gonna get. And since then, I've now been training like a lot better and playing a lot better. Okay. And so I think it is about pressure, like, but sometimes it's just self-created. Yeah. And sometimes like players that do the best are the ones who just also don't really care.
Yeah, that's when I think I enjoyed my rugby the most. Yeah. The less I gave a shit about something, the better the more fun you could have.
Yeah. And what's the point if you don't have fun? Like, what is the point?
Yeah. No, exactly.
Not like me crying after a sevens tournament or anything.
I mean, I've done it too. We all have those days. Like, have those times where you get disappointed, and
it's just like literally after like a long day, literally finish. It's like, oh, I'm getting so much better. To put more pressure on you, on the 25th, Ealing Trial Finders are playing against
Saracens. I'm guessing
Quins?
That's like Quins. That's close.
You mean our first home game?
No, 25th November against Saracens Women's.
Oh, okay.
That was a guess as well. Boom.
Nice.
I didn't research that.
We shall come and make a guest, because it's Saturday I'm not playing, and you guys are starting your season on the 18th.
Yes, next weekend.
And you've had 4 cup games so far, and you lost the recent one to Loughborough Lightning.
Yes, we did. We lost all of them, sadly.
I didn't say that. I said you lost the recent.
I know, I did. It's annoying.
No, but it's, to be fair, we were like, yo, why is there nothing on the table? Like, and then we were like, we did our research a bit more. I was like, oh, it's just cup games. I was like, I was like, if there was like literally no update about the league structure, I was about to be like, nah, I need to write into this one.
I was thinking, I was hoping it was true, because that would have been a good thing to have a rant about.
he's like, oh, by the way, imagine there's no information about stats or the games. Terrible.
You know what? So you went from, I need the summary, guys.
Okay, cool.
Rugby career, not
rugby
podcast.
career. Atlanta, came back to Scotland. Then it was the lockdown, and then she was with, I can't pronounce the first part, but
Cougars.
Kistorfen Cougars. Lockdown, loosened up a bit, and then she was like, do you know what? I went to Auckland. I went to Atlanta. I might as well take a chance and go down to London.
Well, so actually, there's some other interesting bits in there. So
do tell, please.
I was in Kistorfen Cougars, and then I said I wanted to try the Scotland stuff again. And so I joined, and they essentially, we like trained in a very small section of the pitch, like, because it was like the summer sevens, and so we did training, but also we kind of had to bubble as a Scotland squad, and so they brought me in for a bit, and then they invited me to the pre-World Cup stuff.
The World Cup just gone.
No,
it was 2021.
Yeah, because it's interchanging every 2 years.
Oh, fair.
But I'd had a couple conversations where they wanted to move me to front row, and I didn't want to do that, and I didn't think that it was just like, it felt a bit underhanded. I didn't really love it. It wasn't positive. It wasn't particularly positive for me, partly because of my own experiences, but also just the way that the conversations were handled. And so I actually said, no, I don't want to do it. And I quit. Maybe it was, I don't know if it was a good decision or not, but yeah, so I decided to say no and quit the Scotland setup. And so I didn't go to those camps. Then I moved down to London, and I decided that I was going to give a shot at Prem. And I didn't know if I'd be good enough. And I also kind of wanted to prove to the coach that I could play back row at high level. And so then I joined Wasps.
And was this last season that you joined?
Yeah, that was last season.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Get on with it already. Give us the conclusion of the story.
So then joined Wasps, played here. And then, the Scotland coach called me, head of the Six Nations, and said, for credit to you, you can play back row. So that was quite fun. So I was called in for the Six Nations. Sadly, did not get picked to play. And then
You're knocking on the door though.
Knocking on the door, but I am also getting old, so it may be beyond my reach, which is also fine. I've come to terms with it, but you never know. So I'll keep playing and see where it takes me.
27's not old. Come on, don't say that.
For international rugby, it can be old, but there's also a lot of like incredible players coming through who are younger as well. So I also, through life decisions with uni and doing my masters and all those things, if potentially that's not my route, but then I got the opportunity to play at Trailfinders for this season because obviously Wasp shut down.
Yeah, so this is something I wanted to ask you about actually, because it was that last season was a very up in the air kind of year in terms of
it was
a lot of the stuff going on upstairs that is completely out of players and coaches' controls. And, but like it led to the season before that we had a lot of players that were there, a lot of really good players that ended up leaving and whatnot for whatever reasons. So then it led to like a complete exodus of like squad exodus.
Good word that exodus.
Yeah, I try. I don't have it on my phone. No, I genuinely don't. But yeah, and that it led to a lot of like, because I was working at the bar and there was a lot of times the women's were playing and I mean like. You lost a lot of games and that. I mean,
we lost every game.
Was it every?
He didn't say that. He said lost a lot of games.
I mean, I didn't watch everything, so I didn't follow. But I just know that it was a lot of games. So yeah, what was that like? That kind of environment of uncertainty, especially in your first season in the Prem.
Yeah, so obviously I didn't know any different.
Yeah.
But when I joined, there were still quite a few good players around. And still quite a few pro players. And so we started the cup, and I was like loving training. It was like really, really positive. And in the cup, I played 6 for most of the games. So I was like quite excited about, maybe I'll get some game time in the Prem. Like this could be quite exciting. And yeah, then shit hit the fan basically. And yeah, I don't know how. We just kind of got through it. I think it was very frustrating. And it was very frustrating I think I lasted until after I got back from, it was amazing that it gave me the opportunity to play as much as I did, because that basically then got me the call up into the Six Nations squad. So at the end of the day, I am super grateful for everything and all the game time. And most players, when they first join the Prem, are fighting for minutes. And I got 80 minutes pretty much every week.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, playing top level rugby for 80 minutes. Now, granted, the scores were never in our favour. But how many people get to say they got 80 minutes of like a season at also a club that I really respect and love? Of course, in the last year that it was to do it. The only problem was after I came back from the Scotland stuff, which I didn't love and I found quite stressful. It just like exacerbated frustrations and stresses, and so I didn't really enjoy the end of the season. I found that quite difficult.
How were the dynamics in terms of being part of a team that were struggling to get results? Yeah.
Oh my God, those girls are amazing. Yeah. Like everybody, I have never always positive, so lovely. Everyone's like incredibly like kind, and that group of girls will always, like, I've got such good friends for life because of it. So I think there is an element of like going through the adversity of it, and the people who stuck around really stuck around and dug in and were like, well, we're going to be here and we're going to just do this. And yeah, so I have so much time for them always.
And you know what was amazing, because like obviously we were around, but from the outside, like peeking out the window sort of thing. I remember it was the final game of that season. And I think we just played a game out of league, and we were here after our game, and like there was just so much celebrating the whole club and the achievement of being a Prem team, and that togetherness and the pride, current and past players coming down, and it was a really great thing to see and to be around. Even though we weren't directly had any idea of what was going on, just that there was problems with the men's, therefore there was problems with the women's, and therefore maybe go Coventry, maybe not, and this and that.
Yeah. No, it's difficult. And I think I actually, because I'd only been there for a year, I didn't really have much tie to like Wasps as an institution. So I have a lot of like affection for the girls in that year, but I didn't really understand the history of Wasps. But like Wasps was the first women's team in England.
Yeah, really?
Club women's team in England, So obviously that was, there's obviously still a women's team here, but the fact that it was always at the top level of rugby, and the fact now, just because of poor financing and all that sort of stuff, now there wouldn't be. I can understand why a lot of people found that super hard. And there were some women on the day who were in that first ever team coming back down for like the last game. I don't like to say last game because obviously the amateurs are still playing and doing really well, and I know they got promoted as well. So it's not. I think it's like I understand there's more to it, but it was just because obviously the women's Prem side was the highest level of the game in England, and so the fact that Wasps had always played at the highest level in England. And for the women's game and now wasn't, it was quite a big day for people.
Of course,
I just didn't have huge connection with the history, but I obviously learned a lot in that year. And if anyone in that team was to need anything, it would be no problem here for you whenever. So it's also quite nice now that we've all left. We kind of all had to leave, and so whenever I see them, like we played Saris in the cup, and there's a couple of girls who I saw, and it was like, oh, it's so good to see you. Whereas sometimes when people leave because they want to, rather than because they have to, it's like a bit of a negative vibe.
100%.
It shouldn't be, but sometimes it is because you're like, oh, you left the team. Whereas actually, it's like it's still all very positive.
I mean, it's all about like how different people take you leaving. Some people see it as traitor, you've left and gone to a different place.
We didn't have any of that because it shut.
So how so if we move on from like Wasps, how did the move to Ealing come about?
So how did it come about? I went to visit Trailfinders, and I also went to visit a couple of the other clubs in London, and I liked what Giselle suggested and enjoyed the idea of being like the first team there, try and build something, a bit of history. They got a lot of resources.
So it's a great club.
So there wasn't the risk of another Wasps situation, which is quite a nice thing to know. You don't have to like deal with so much financial concerns on top of your regular life.
Say what it is. Deal with so much shit. It's fine.
Then I also went to, I spoke to Quinn, spoke to Saris, but I think the Trailfinders culture was probably something I wanted to be a part of. So then joined, and it's been difficult at times just because I think mentally I was a bit in a bit of a slump with it, but now I'm like really, really enjoying it, and everyone's lovely as well. Giselle picked some incredible people and just like really nice humans.
How's your Trailfinders adventure gone so far, especially
4 games in,
and especially building up to the curtain raiser of starting the league?
Well, so I played the first game, then got dropped because I was played so badly. Which I did. Is that
you being self-critical?
No, I'm being honest.
Okay.
So I was played badly. Then I was back in, and I played well. And then I started the last game in the cup and played, I think, well. So.
So 25th, you should be on the pitch. Okay.
Fingers crossed. It's very competitive. Everyone's really, really good. So it is like it is.
Regardless, we can get a nicer post-game picture of you.
Sure.
If you're there.
But it's like it's close. So
in kit as well.
Well, I gotta get picked first. So
as long as you're wearing something that says the Ealing Trailfinders, that's anything.
It's. I mean, whatever's the best decision for the team, and it will depend on who you're playing. And so I have absolutely like every single other player that's playing in my position. They're all very good players, and so I would have no problem if people are picked above me because I'm like, they're good. I get it. So it's nice to also be in an environment where that is the case, and incredible rugby players. It's pretty cool.
That's a good mentality. I say that to everyone as well. If there's a player who plays my position who's better than me, gladly start him over me.
I say it's the same thing. In Warriors, obviously I'm complete.
Rugby league.
I'm talking league. These guys are very good. And I sort of embrace that they're very good because there's so much more to learn from them and stuff like that. Rather than get insecure and thinking you're not good enough because this person is so good and stuff like that.
And some of them have so much Prem experience and so much international experience. And obviously I've got 1 year in the Prem and I've never played an international game. So the opportunity to learn from them is super cool. And also just fun. Like, it's fun rugby. When it's good rugby, it's like like a sick offload or like the people run the right lines.
Champagne rugby, jouet.
You get to hit people. It's great. So it's pretty fun.
That's amazing. So before we wrap things up, unless there's anything else you want to say,
Doner or shawarma?
Not really. Don't know. I don't know if I know the difference.
Go for it, mate. You crack on to your next question.
Okay, so
sorry.
So just to end on a light note, what advice would you give to any young girls aspiring to play rugby or any young girls in their sporting adventure?
A light note? That's intense.
Okay, not a light note, but wrong words. I'll edit that out. Well, no, he'll
5
edit that
words
out.
or less. 5 words or less.
No, say as much as you want or as little as you want.
What would I say?
Imagine they're just there.
Imagine the
Just to
camera.
pile on the pressure.
Yeah.
I would just say enjoy it. Like, have fun. Enjoy it. Like, at the end of the day, that's what really matters. Like, find something that you really, really love. And if it is sport, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then just keep having fun with it. Like, don't stress out. Just keep enjoying it.
Okay. And any fun facts?
I got a question.
Okay.
So as women's rugby is becoming more of a social hit now, who would you say one of your favorite like social media players is to like follow online?
I'm really bad at social media. I'm not a social media person.
Good enough though, because we got through to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I guess who it is?
Sure.
Is it American?
Yes.
Alona Ma?
Yes. She's excellent.
She is wonderful.
She's very funny, and she's very chill and like low key, and I
she's-
enjoy that.
I love that. She's just so like, so yeah, you know, guys, just like, it is what it is.
Yeah, she's great. She's really
great.
cracked TikTok as well. Everyone loves her.
If we make it to America, that's who we're going for next.
Oh, that's that would be a big step up.
That'll be a massive step up. It's like, yeah, so episode 6 off to America. There we go.
Who knows? Who knows? One
Yeah.
day.
Okay, fun fact time. You had a Halloween fact at the very start that I didn't hear from you.
It's not. I think now it's maybe not exciting.
No.
I want to hear yours in case it's more fun.
No, I need more time for this one. Okay.
Okay.
Guess
Okay.
first.
So my Halloween fact is that trick or treating
Yeah.
actually comes from Scotland, and it was called guising.
Guising.
Yeah. And
What's the word guising mean?
Well, it's the act of like going around and like, so you would like knock on people's doors and then you like perform tricks, like perform jokes or sing songs, and then you would get treats for it. And so I did that as a kid. So trick or treating in America actually comes from like that tradition, and we didn't do any of the tricking. Just like you would like knock and then you have to say a joke, and if it's funny, they'd give you treats.
What if it wasn't funny?
Well, luckily, most people did. But if you like did something bad, technically they would be like, "Nah, you've not earned it."
You got a joke that you told
No,
in your day?
no. I mean, I do, but they're so bad.
Please.
Shoot.
Okay, remember when I did it, I was like 6 or 7. But my
Okay.
favorite one was like, what do you call a fat pumpkin?
Ooh,
What do you call a fat pumpkin?
A plumpkin. Told you it was bad.
Oh, do you know what's a good one? Knock knock.
Who's the?
Interrupting cow.
Oh no, I'm
Nah.
not even doing that.
I
I'm
know
not
that
even
one.
doing that. Plumpkin though, I haven't heard that one. That's quite niche.
It is.
That's great. Well, guys, that was pretty much it. Thank you very much for listening to the podcast or watching it. Please like, share, subscribe. Don't put the thumbs down button, or if you want to, you can. It's any response is a good response. This was Fiona Cooper. That's
Do you wanna plug
Tarek.
your socials?
No.
Okay, there we go.
Fair enough. 25th of November, we will be making a little trip to Ealing Trial Finders, hopefully to watch Fiona play. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Tarek Mustafa, Boyan Jajaric, and Fiona Cooper. That was the episode of LIS podcast. Safe.